Hello and thank you for signing up. My name is Marcus, host of The Marcus Garrett Show, where we have entertaining conversations with your favorite influencers and entrepreneurs about life after debt. I'm also the best-selling author behind Debt Free or Die Trying, How I Buried Myself $30,000 in Debt and Dug My Way Out by age 30. However, most of you are probably here because of this tweet. Earlier this year, I tweeted a $130,000 salary in New York City, Manhattan to be exact, is equal to $67,000 in Chicago, or $58,000 in Atlanta, or $55,000 in Austin, Texas, my hometown. Shout out to the ATX, the music capital of the world. And some people lost their minds, as is the way of the internet. I was accused of making it up, and pretty much everything else, called everything but a child of God. And, it is what it is. This is not new information. In fact, I did this research in 2016 for the first time, and I've been refreshing it ever since. This information actually goes all the way back to 1968 and is aggregated by the Council for Community and Economic Research every year based on the cost of living data available from updated or new census information. So this information came out again in 2021. I shared it on Twitter and my life has gone sideways ever since. So I put together this quick webinar to talk about how you can use this data and information to negotiate your salary, how cost of living will impact you, I believe, post-pandemic, and I really believe it impacted everyone pre-pandemic, but it's become more of a conversation now as people start looking at either work from home opportunities or returning to work. This webinar will quickly cover both of those, cost of living and salary negotiation, some of the best tools that I like and I've been using for the past decade as a recovering auditor, data and financial analyst. I've used this information for over 10 years now, not only to help others, but to help myself negotiate my salary. And in fact, it has resulted in a 400% increase in my salary over the years. And I was able to talk about that for the first time in 2018 with Yahoo Finance. You can find this article if you Google Yahoo Finance, how I increased my salary 400%. Do not have rights to the video, so this is a screenshot from that video from 2018. Additionally, I've talked about my book and show, podcast now and video at The Marcus Garrett or The Marcus Garrett Show on pretty much anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast player. And I've also had an opportunity to talk about my book for CBS News, Eye on Money, where we talked about how to improve your credit score. Again, that book is Debt Free or Die Trying, How I Buried Myself $30,000 in Debt and Dug My Way Out. And that is available on Amazon, or you can find me at themarcusgarrett.com for more information, as well as video links to all of these interviews. If you prefer YouTube, I'm at youtube.com/themarcusgarrett. But let's talk about why you're probably here today for this little miniature webinar that I put together to talk about salary negotiation and cost of living increases. So if you take my course, Increase Your Income, it actually covers all of these things here. I'm briefly going to talk about them during this discussion, during this mini webinar. So you'll learn about my favorite cost of living calculators. There's lots of them out there. I do have a favorite. And there's lots of negotiation and salary negotiation tools out there. Of course, I have some favorites there as well. I talk a little bit about the paycheck plateau. If you did not know, about 90% of individuals will see their paycheck plateau, meaning when accounting for their salary and inflation, it will not increase at about age 48 for men and even younger for women due to the gender gap and other issues that we face. And so I talk about how that affects your negotiations, my favorite salary negotiation tools, and then of course the big ask, which most people are interested in. How do you set your salary expectations and how do you go about increasing your salary? So for those of you that are interested, you should be able to find this in your chat window, or you can visit my site at themarcusgarrett.com and I'll get you a direct link. I have a course called Increase Your Income where I talk about all these tools and resources that retails at $397. But as a thank you for signing up for this webinar and using your very valuable time, I'm actually going to knock that down for $200. So with today's webinar discount limited to this webinar, you can get this course for $197. So what do I talk about in this course? Of course, In the course, I talk about cost of living. That's generally what most people are either unfamiliar with or most interested in if they are familiar with these tools. I use one of my favorite salary negotiation tools. I go over 4 in total in the course. I make them all freely available to you to come up with this analysis based on the Council for Community and Economic Research, who looks at census data every year. Again, that was a $130,000 salary in New York City, was equivalent or comparable to a $55,000 salary in Austin, Texas, because in New York City, and that is because the cost of living in New York City is much more expensive, is about 400% more expensive for housing, as well as utilities and other expenses. And so why does this matter? There was actually a case study, which is why I retweeted this information in 2021. Again, I've been talking about this for a decade, did a few interviews in 2018, 19, and 20 for various sources. But Google was looking at rolling out a pay cut calculator for their work from home employees. You can go Google this on Google, and this is not limited to Google. This is really started in the tech sector, but I'm starting to believe that this might be the new normal if or when individuals choose to work from home. This might be an unintended consequence that they might have or face a salary cut. So I wanted individuals to be aware of the tips and tools so they can have this information on their side. As you can see here in this news snippet, this is $38,000. This is almost a $40,000 salary decrease. So imagine you went to work on Friday making $150,000 and you were told on Monday now you'll be making $112,000 if you want to continue work from home. Again, that's fine. I think Google's supposed to be one of the best places to work, but I think the employee should be just as informed with the tools and resources as well. As I mentioned, to justify those cost decreases, Google used the exact same information that I'd been using for a decade as well. And they were looking at these cost of living calculators, and they were saying that employees that no longer had to travel or be in the office, they might justify a pay cut calculator. And so they were using it in the inverse. Instead of using it to negotiate a salary increase, they were using it to, I don't know if this was a negotiation, decrease their employer's salary. This is a quote from the article. Companies have invested vast sums in large fancy campuses, and they want to see a return on their investment by having employees return to these buildings. This is in regards to post-pandemic, depending on when you're watching this video. And so a lot of individuals didn't want to return to the office. And so Google and other companies were saying that's fine, but we will negotiate a lower salary if that is the choice you make. So that's why I want to empower both employees and the employer with these cost of living tools and resources that I've been talking about for the last decade. In addition to that, in the past, I've been using this information for salary negotiation. As I said, I use these tools to negotiate a 400% salary increase for myself since college. So I was making about $19,000, and when I graduated college with a degree in business, I was able to use these tools to increase my salary over 400% over the next 5, 7, and 10 years. Why does that matter, and how did I go about doing that? Well, here's another article from Zippia.com, and if you look over here to your right, the average income for workers, as I said, stagnates at about age 45. I came to this conclusion at 27 because I was looking at some data as it pertained to my own salary around annual performance evaluation. And I started looking at how much I would make over the next 20 years. And I realized that my pay would also stagnate if I did not make a change. In my case, I started looking at side hustles and passive income. I now am on my second business, and I was able to use that information, fortunately, in my early 20s, so I could prepare and hopefully offset that stagnation in my, as I'm doing this video, late 30s. And in fact, I was successful. As I said, this was my second business. I was able to increase my salary to over 6 figures, as well as my take-home income. And then I was able to build a online business, a 6-figure brand that I run at themarcusgarrett.com. Again, this all started with, know better, do better. I was able to get hold of that cost of living information. I started looking at how I could use that information to negotiate my salary. And I was able to offset that stagnation that many employees will see, as you see over here to the right, on average at around 45, that salary range starts to stagnate for the average employee. In fact, I believe most recent census data said that employees in the United States who make over 90,000 are making more than 87% of US households. So this video is as of 2021, and I'll continue to monitor this information. And for those of you who don't want to invest in the course today, that's fine as well. You can visit themarcusgarrett.com/salary. I'll send you all this information for free. Again, that's themarcusgarrett.com/salary. So why does it matter? I use these tools and information to empower myself. I believe the employee should be just as empowered as well in their salary negotiation. They did analysis, and researchers found the difference between starting at a $50,000 salary and a $55,000 salary. So just $5,000 could net you almost $500,000 over the course of your career. So think about how much money you could lose by not having these potentially difficult salary negotiation conversations. And I think most people think they will be difficult, but they don't have to be. I've just aggregated this information in one easy to find spot in these video courses that I've made available. And what I've found is that you can use this data to change that no to a yes. In fact, some of the best salary negotiation tools are data-based. I like to use facts to form opinions instead of opinions to form facts. So I use this data to make my salary-based negotiations. And as I said, I've been very successful negotiating salary raises of over 40%. In fact, in total, up to 400% when you look at a 10-year range since I graduated school. Biased as an auditor, I believe if you follow the evidence, use these cost of living tools and salary negotiation tools, they will lead you to a path where you can also increase your salary. And in the course, I'll go over ways where you can build confidence, which I believe comes from having this salary and data on your side, so it's not just in the hands of the employer. And this allows you to gain confidence and negotiate with confidence in your next pay raise or salary negotiation. I also talk about the best time to get some of these pay raises in salary negotiation and to be the most successful in getting the raise or pay that you deserve. And I believe we're all impacted by this. I released this information in 2016. I wrote a blog about it. Actually read 15 personal finance books, which I also make freely available to community subscribers, and you'll get access to that as a thank you for signing up for this webinar. I believe these negotiations and discussions impact everyone, and I believe these tools and resources allow for personal accountability and advocacy so employee can have an informed discussion with their employer based on the data and taking the emotion out of it. I'll also provide you with some tools so you can know your worth and you can look up this information and add tax. In fact, another negotiation that I did is when I moved from Colorado that has a state tax to Texas that does not have a state tax. I was able to get 2 raises in that particular instance because I was able to negotiate a higher salary, and then I moved to a state without a state tax. So that's something else that you can keep in mind for individuals who will be considering working from home or considering relocation. I've actually relocated for 4 different jobs, which is why I got so interested in these cost of living and salary negotiation tools. With this data information that I'll provide you, you can use information and evidence to make data-based discussions around salary negotiation and cost of living. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, get the yes and the money you've earned and deserve. If you click the chat button, I believe it'll be on the right side of your screen. You'll get a $200 off coupon exclusive to today's webinar. I'll give you 4 of my favorite cost of living calculators, as well as walk through how to advocate for yourself and confidently negotiate your salary. But don't just take my word for it. Here are some testimonials from people who have been successful with my course. Jamel here was able to get $10,000 above the posting amount. And here's another one, a pretty special moment she described it as. In fact, she didn't even buy the course. She just used our tips and tools from a webinar that I had with Barbara Genty, a certified financial planner and host of the Future Rich podcast. And finally, another listener was able to double their salary in 14 months with these tips and tools that I've covered in this video. cost of living calculators, and confidently negotiating his salary. On the first negotiation, he was able to get a 50% raise and then a 25% salary bump, plus a sign-on bonus using just the tips and tools that I talk about in this video and that are aggregated and consolidated in my Increase Your Income course, which you'll get $200 off today, exclusive to this webinar. In addition, you'll get unlimited access to course updates and a 30-day satisfaction money-back guarantee. If at any moment you find yourself unsatisfied with the course within the first 30 days, just shoot me an email and I or the team will send you your money back guaranteed.
You're now tuned into the smooth sounds of TMG. I'm your host, the Marcus Garrett.